Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. We are talking all about self-love today. It's February, the month of Valentine's Day. We're really leaning in. My name's Allie. I'll be leading today's conversation, but I'm joined here by Jess and Aubrey, who will introduce themselves shortly. So just want to go over those couple quick housekeeping items before we get started. First, for anyone who may be unfamiliar, Face It Together is an addiction wellness nonprofit. And so we provide professional peer coaching to those impacted by addiction, and that also includes loved ones. We often do that at no cost. And so if you are in need of help, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. During our webinar today, please feel free to ask questions using the Q&A button, which you can do anonymously if you would like. And then lastly, I always like to mention that these webinars are a benefit to our Fed at Work program. And that is where we partner with employers to provide our peer coaching as a mental health benefit to employees and their family members. The coaching is completely confidential. So maybe you're watching this and you've seen our materials in your break room or in your onboarding packet. That means that your employer believes in this approach and they want you to be well. And so again, we are here if you need help. Would love for you to reach out and walk alongside you. But I will kick us off then. Let's just start maybe with quick introductions. Give folks a little bit of an understanding of what brought you here today. Aubrey, if you want to start.
Sure. Yep, my name is Aubrey, and I'm one of the peer coaches here with Face It Together. I am a loved one coach and also a person with addiction coach because I have struggled, I guess, on both sides of that coin. I struggled with alcohol myself personally for a little over 13 years. And then also later, once I found my recovery and my wellness, I found myself in a relationship with a man who struggled with alcohol. And so just really learning to navigate on either side of that situation has definitely come with a lot of, learning experiences. And so now just really passionate and very grateful that I can be a part of this organization and walk alongside others who might be in the midst of their own situation.
Thank you. Jess?
I am Jessica. I'm a peer coach as well for Face It Together. Found my dream job, right? Helping people. I didn't really realize I had a problem until I was incarcerated. And then, of course, I wanted to like fix everything and change my life. So I did the work, and here I am trying to help other people do the same.
Awesome. Thank you. I saw Nick. He has
Yeah, I did
disappeared
too.
again. He's our surprise guest. Nick is actually working out of the prison today, a prison in South Dakota where he coaches men behind the walls before they release back into the community. He was having some connectivity problems, so he may be back, and we'll welcome him with open arms if he
Yeah.
can get that internet figured out. But we'll we'll keep on trucking until then. So we're talking all about self-love today, and of course, we're coming at this from a very, um, kind of addiction recovery informed lens, right? That's the work we do. But I'd like to think that there's something in this for everybody because we could all use a little more self-love, right? So, um, if you could maybe both reflect back on how that view of self-love, like how your understanding of that, how has that changed maybe throughout your life or your recovery? And then what does it look like for you today? I know, not big questions at all. Jess, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So for me, I had been through so much trauma as a child and a teenager, young adult, that I had no clue what self-love was at all. I didn't know anything about myself, let alone like how to love myself. And so like self-discovery was like one of the biggest things for me that led to self-love.
Mhm.
I was so busy trying to protect myself my whole life from things, from being hurt, from feeling feelings, from any of
Mhm.
that, that I just didn't really know anything about me. And the last time I was in um Yankton, or not Yank, yeah, Yankton, HSC, they gave me this sheet of paper, and it was like 80, no, 30, 38 questions, something like that, about about yourself. And I couldn't answer anything other than that I was a mother. Like that's all I knew. I didn't know anything
Mm,
else. I mean, I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know anything. And
hmm
so really like learning what I liked, like finding out what I wanted in life, those all became really important to me in my recovery. Um,
hmm
Now like my self-love looks way different than before, right? My self-love when I first started in recovery was very much um, patience, giving myself grace. I didn't have access to like tons of money, whereas you would think like, oh, pampering yourself and getting
mm,
yourself great things. I couldn't do all that. I was a struggling single mom, new in recovery, and so like I really had to like dig deep inside me and find out what would make me happy without money, right?
mm.
What would make me smile again? What would make me
Yeah.
laugh? Those were like little things that I had to, and I had forgot how much I like to laugh. Like I really like I mean I love comedy. And like so I got really into like comedy shows and like I mean just even on YouTube, like I mean I
Yeah.
couldn't go anywhere, but making myself happy. That was where I started with self-love. And now it's transformed and like I'm trying to plan vacation, give myself happiness, do things that are different. Um, but in the beginning it was a lot smaller.
Mhm. Well, I
So
love that you said that. I mean, there's so much of what you just said that I love and I want to talk about, but we can't do it all
yeah.
justice today.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really think that's an important point when we're talking. This self-love is such a huge, nebulous
Right.
concept, right? And it's going to change and it can feel really overwhelming. And so even just like those small steps of like, well, what made me smile today? Like starting
Yeah.
there versus
Hmm.
like, I need to love myself completely without any strings attached
Yeah.
tomorrow. Like that's not how that works. So
Yep.
I
Yep.
loved that. I'm so glad you mentioned the trauma and you were open about that because I'm thinking of um the the great Terry Brown who recently passed away. She was our longest serving peer
Yeah.
coach and her one of Terry's big mantras was to go from surviving to thriving. And so I think that lines up
Yes.
exactly with what you said, right? Because first step is make
Hmm.
sure I'm safe, my needs are taken care
Right.
of, and then where can we grow from there? So, okay, I'm done gushing about your answer now,
Yeah.
Aubrey.
Yeah.
would you like to answer next?
Sure, yes. And I loved your response too, Jess. I feel like that is a big
Thank you.
piece of loving yourself is knowing yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
that self-discovery. And then I think like for me, I feel that my inner work really had to, I guess, focus more inward. I was so focused on everybody around me and like, was I making everybody else happy? Were they
Mhm.
upset with me? Like, that's where I was getting my value from. And, you can never make everyone happy. And then, using unrealistic ways to measure, I guess, my value translated to, I guess, how my self-love was communicated, I guess, in my own head.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of the self-love when I was in my active addiction, it was just constantly trying to, look right, talk right,
Mm-hmm.
do what I thought everybody wanted me to do, fit into what society told me, or my interpretation of what society
Right.
wanted me to do. And then when it wasn't working or when I was having, setbacks or failures in that area, I just felt really bad about myself. And then I would drink. And then, of course, that feeling, when you're drinking, all of your like inhibitions kind of fall
Hmm.
away and all of those like critical voices in your head, they're not there. And then I just kind of found myself living in that place because I didn't want to live in the other place where everything was so negative and critical and hard.
Mm-hmm.
But part of, I guess, coming out of that and learning how to love myself was to really focus on the way that I talk to myself,
Mm-hmm.
because that was a big piece. And it wasn't that that just went away, like oh, you're so dumb, or oh, that was such a stupid thing to do, or oh, you're this or
Mm-hmm.
that. I'd still say those things, but then I'd stop and I'd verbally say, like, no, you're not whatever you just said you are. Like, come on,
Mhm.
logically, that's not true. And that really helped a lot as well. But then, I don't know, talking to yourself kindly and lovingly. And then also, like what Jess said, just realizing that, you're not perfect. You're gonna make mistakes. And you can use those mistakes to help yourself grow, or you can internalize those all to hold yourself into this very ugly, dark place.
Mhm. Right. And it's so true that it is, um, yeah, that is something I've worked on even personally too, right? Like, who do I want to be? What is my value independent of other people? Just said it, right? Like, I'm a mom, and Aubrey, that's what you were just talking about. Like, what is my role to other people? How, and so I think that can be really difficult. And then the other thing you talked about, but maybe didn't name explicitly, which leads in perfectly to the next question I have is shame, right? And that can be a vicious cycle where maybe we're drinking or using drugs to avoid feelings of shame or other uncomfortable feelings. And so when we enter recovery, when we're sober, that can feel really heavy. Those feelings we've maybe been avoiding, the shame, the guilt. Um, is there anything that helped you kind of lighten that load early on in sobriety, Aubrey, other than like the self-talk or something we haven't already touched on?
Yeah, I guess in a way, for me, I took a more like empowered approach maybe when I was thinking about it. It used to be just the shame, you're terrible, you're horrible, all of those things. But then once I started working actively on my wellness and, taking the steps that I needed to take, I also started telling myself, like, I'm not going to allow those things to happen again. Like, I'm not going to allow
Mm,
myself to do those things or put myself in a situation where those things could happen. I am in control. That's the past,
mm,
you know.
mhm. Yeah. Jess, what about you? Anything that helped you kind of lighten some of the shame, any feelings of guilt that maybe you had?
Yeah, I definitely love the self-talk. That for me was one of my biggest things. Like my kids would always be like, why are you talking to yourself? Because I'd be just hyping myself up because,
Mhm.
6 months before that, I was hyping myself down so much, like I wanted to put the same amount of effort into like becoming what I wanted to be that I was tearing myself down.
Right.
And that really did a lot for me. Self-talk, like out loud, it makes it real, like it's real now. It's not just a thought or whatever. But also, I had a counselor tell me that even my drinking or doing drugs was a form of self-love in my head, right? That's what you were doing
Mhm.
to help yourself. Like you were trying to cope, you were trying to be. And so finding a way to replace that, right, is going to be your best self-love, like putting
Mhm.
something there instead of something that's going to be detrimental to your health, that is going to be beneficial. And so I really tried to like swap out like for myself, like when I felt like I wanted a drink. And that was, I'm a drug addict, but alcohol is prevalent, right? Alcohol is everywhere. Anywhere you
Mhm.
go, there's alcohol. And so like it's like I couldn't be in the store without walking by alcohol. And so it's constant like, well, I could really de-stress and have a beer or two. No one would know, right? But that's not going to get me anywhere, right? So then I have to like think, okay, well, I'm stressed. Maybe the gym will work. I'm
Mhm.
stressed. Maybe going to a movie with my son will work. Like replacing what I would use as a
Mhm.
form of self-care, self-love, because
Mhm.
it's not really that, even though we think it is, with something that will be helpful or
Mhm.
beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about like what does it look like for you both now? And we've been calling it self-love, but we could probably call it a lot of things like having self-compassion or grace or patience with ourselves. Um, is there anything you do now, like maybe when you're disappointed in yourself or you're having a bad day or like um yeah, is there just a different way you kind of go about navigating those feelings now?
Mhm.
You can go,
Yeah,
Aubrey.
oh, thank you. So yeah, I think for me, a lot of the same, similar things that we've been talking about is just kind of
Yeah.
stepping back and looking at the situation objectively, trying to take the emotions out, trying to sort through it like, okay, are these real things, is there anything to support my thoughts besides my thought,
Mm,
Did somebody tell me that I did a horrible job? Or, do I have tangible things that I can say, like, yep, that was terrible? I mean, that's one piece of it. But then I think too, um, just reframing my thoughts on like it's the end of the world. Well, no, like it happened, but there's nothing you can
Right.
do to change what happened, right? Like the
hmm
only thing that you can control is what you do now. And so really trying to keep my focus forward and not focus so much on what has happened.
hmm Right. And it's a fine balance, I think, between like not avoiding it entirely, being okay to turn toward it without, yeah, really spiraling or dwelling over it. And Aubrey, is it you who you kind of approach like your headspace sometimes like a courtroom? Because you just said evidence, and I was like, I think that Aubrey who is like who will present evidence to her
Yeah.
own brain internally as proof of
Yeah.
like, okay, this belief maybe isn't serving me, or I can't, I won't steal your thunder there, but that's what that made me think of.
That's me. Yeah, I
Yeah.
always tell people too, like I might be weird. That's very possible. But yeah.
Weird is good.
Hey, if it works, hey, it works.
Right?
Right.
Um,
Well, yeah.
Jess, what about you? Any way you kind of navigate some of that and show yourself a little grace?
Most definitely. I used to be very pessimistic. I mean,
Mm,
it was, for me, it was more like, well, it's obvious, like everything's always going to shit, you know? That's how I felt about everything all the time, you know? And so when I got sober, I really, really did start to like look into things more. Like, okay, yes, this fell apart, but why? Maybe I'm supposed to be doing something totally different. Maybe it's my fault. Maybe it's not my fault. Maybe it's
hmm
circumstantial. I really started to like look at like a broader picture, which I'd never had. I always just was very like focused on what was happening right
mm,
then and there, right?
hmm
But like now when I look at things like just in November, we had just so happened a drunk driver smashed into one of our cars. I mean, totaled it, you
mm,
know, and um he was just devastated. I mean, devastated. Like it was the end of the world, his beautiful car. And I'm like, well, you could be getting better. Like, look at it. I mean, you don't know yet, you know? Like, let's not, it's not the end of the world, like Aubrey said. Like, don't, look at things differently or
hmm
try anyways. I know it's hard, especially in the beginning, because I was always the cup isn't even half full, it's practically empty type, like I could barely see a drop, you
Yeah.
know? And now like I'm so different, like just my thought process changed. Like, oh, I'm okay, maybe it is empty, but like, why? Is it going to get filled up by something else? Like,
hmm
I feel like we can get to a point where we're either like going to look at things just in the negative or for what they could possibly be. And like, I would
hmm
so much rather be on that. Like, I mean, it's even funner, if that's a word.
Yeah.
Funner? More fun? I don't know. But, like, there's more
Yeah.
excitement, expecting. I mean, it was sad. The car got totally smashed. The whole ordeal was stressful and I'm still like, ooh, what could come out of this? Like you just never know.
Yeah. That hope is really, really special. And yeah,
Yeah.
like you said, not always easy.
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
and if
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
nothing, sorry, I was just gonna add to what Jess said, like thinking about productive things, like what can I actually do right now to change or make this different? If there's nothing that I can do, then what am I doing sitting here
Right.
stressing out and like making
Hmm.
myself feel bad about it? Like nothing's going to
Hmm.
come out of this at all. That's good or
What can
productive.
we control? Yep.
Mm.
Right.
No. How has this journey of self-love, kind of rebuilding that, discovering yourself, how has that changed your relationships with others? Jess, if you want to start.
I'm gonna say that with certain people, it just depends.
Sure.
Uh, with some people, I've had a lot of self-discovery of myself, and so where I had no boundaries before, I had to build
Mm,
them up. Where I
yep.
accepted less than I should have, I had to fix that. And then there's other relationships where me doing self-discovery on myself and on my failures, right?
Mm,
Made me realize, like, example, my mother, maybe I don't hate her as much as I thought I did.
mm,
Like, maybe everything, it was not her fault. Like, so I mean, definitely circumstantial, I'm sure, but
right,
yeah, I think finding out a lot more about me, and it's easy to want grace from people. It's easy to want forgiveness for the things I've done. Um, but it's not always easy to give it back. And so, like,
right.
definitely finding all that middle ground, because there's so much middle ground for all that. Like, uh,
Hmm.
you gotta find balance. And so,
Hmm. Yep, absolutely. Does that align with what you've seen, Aubrey?
Yeah, it's it's the whole time Jess was talking, it was like, yep, that's exactly what I was thinking too, you know?
yeah.
Just having the ability to set your boundaries, and to communicate and model that self-love to other people around you, and then having that compassion for other people too, just
Hmm.
having been through that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think it's easier to love humans in general once you start to love
Mm,
yourself.
mm, hmm. Yeah. All right, I have one more question for you both. I don't see any audience questions here today, but for anybody maybe watching the recording later, please feel free to reach out to us. But before I get to my last question, Aubrey, Jess, is there anything we haven't touched on that you wanted to mention?
I don't think
So,
so. I think you've done an amazing job.
I do think this is a great topic, and I think the one thing that I feel has been pretty monumental for myself is not thinking that I'm alone, not thinking that I, like have to do everything myself. But at the end of my life, I mean, at the end of the day, when I go to bed, if I can look and say, like, hey, I did everything today to the best of my ability,
Mm-hmm.
and everything that I did today was not fueled by like nasty, ugly thoughts or intentions. Whatever happened, it wasn't something that was directly from me and, not aligned with my values as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the one that's living my life,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm the one that wants to be able to look back and say, like, hey, it was a good day. It was a,
Mm-hmm.
things are good and I'm okay and I love
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Right. And maybe I wasn't perfect, but that's not the goal.
Right.
Yeah.
No one
I think
is.
that's a great, what a
Mhm.
great checklist is not the right word, but what a great just kind of measure of like, did I live today how I would want? Like,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
we don't need to overdo that and get too fixated on those things. But uh, I really like that attitude. All
Well,
right, my
and
last. Oh,
oh,
you
sorry.
go.
The other thing that came to mind earlier too is just how a lot of times we think in like finalities, and it's like,
Mm,
oh, this happened and now it's just bad. But like no matter where you're at, you always have another choice. Like there's always a choice. There's always a
Hmm.
direction to go. It's never like the end all be all. So I
Hmm.
wanted to add that too.
Hmm. Yep. That middle ground, that gray area. Yep.
Mhm.
All right. Time for my last question, which is looking back now, what would you say to your past self who was struggling with addiction or struggling to believe healing was possible, didn't love themselves? Is there anything you would say to that person?
Um, I always say that I wish that I could go back and just hug my little self. Like
Hmm.
I wish that I could hug her so that she could feel like just warmth and love and like be able to
Hmm.
like trust it, because I had such a hard time. But like, I mean, I even if you proved it, I didn't believe that if anyone was trustworthy. And so like, like I feel like I would like to go back and like tell myself, it's okay to trust people, but at the same time, you got to be in the situation where you
Yeah,
can. So,
right.
yeah, I would do a lot of redirecting to my little self if I could. Um, Unfortunately, that's not possible, but I think definitely, knowing where you're at, your surroundings, stuff like that is so important,
Hmm.
getting around people that support you for the positive. I wish I had then all these suggestions, find a
Yeah.
support system. There are people that will listen to you and help you, like it's just difficult to get to them sometimes and again to
Hmm.
trust them. But yeah, I think that would be my big one.
Hmm. What about you, Aubrey?
I I guess I would probably just tell myself that, like it's a Winnie the Pooh reference apparently, but you're stronger you're stronger than you know, right?
Mm,
Like
Yeah.
you are stronger than you know, because I think that was a big piece for me was just feeling like less than, not
hmm.
strong enough, not good enough, not pretty enough, not smart enough. Like you're enough. You are, and you're gonna be okay. Because as much as it was painful, and yes, there were things that I do regret and wish had never happened, I guess I don't know if I'd be the person I am today if they didn't. So,
Exactly. Right? I mean, we can't change the past, and if we could, what would be the repercussions of that and where would we be today, right? It's
right.
so hard to say. Well, thank you both. This
Yeah.
was just a lovely, heartfelt conversation that I really appreciate. I know we only scratched the surface here of self-love today. We did it in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you both and thank you to everyone who joined, who's watching this recording. Again, if you need any help, maybe want to get connected to a peer coach, you can do that at wefaceit together.org. We are here to answer your questions, point you in the right direction if you need resources, but we want to be there for you. So thank you both.